So this creator is spitting hotness. And if you're on my TikTok page, I'm just going to embed it so you can just play it. If you're on my YouTube page, I'm going to post it right after this. She's talking about how men use relationships with women to like learn how to do things, and then they kind of discard the women and they just move on to the next woman. And you can kind of see this in the Barb the Builder phenomenon, where a person is at their most brokenness. A man will be at his most brokenness. He'll get built up by Barb, and then he'll discard her and then go get another woman. He does this because Barb has seen him at his lowest. He was broken in whatever way, emotionally, financially, in his job, whatever. And then he becomes this hotness. And then he could take himself and be a whole new version of himself, someplace that another woman has never seen, and reap the benefits of the Barb the Builder. When you listen to what she's saying, it's kind of that exact same phenomenon, and the reason why you don't build a person, because they are siphoning off your creativity, the things that you know, your empathy, your emotional labor, your education, all of that. And then they get to leave you drained a little bit, and they're a little bit more fulfilled, a little bit more knowledgeable or whatever, and go be a completely different person to the next woman. So I want you to watch this and tell me what you think about this, because the phenomenon is definitely there. And this is the reason why we should not be messing around with broken people. I understand growing, because we all grow and change a little bit, but we should not be fundamentally trying to repair men. Watch her video, and you guys let me know what you think.
I've never met a man whose growth, relationally, personally, or otherwise, didn't come from a long line of women who were damaged. It's for this that I have a lot of concern with how men see women and their life, their humanity, as acceptable collateral damage for their journey of self and personal development. When you accept the damaging of other people, or the fact that other people are just simply not as human as you are, as a necessary component of your growth, then you will always seek that and relate it to how you improve yourself without real regard for the harm it causes. There's a way that men move through relationships where I find they often learn really difficult lessons at the expense of women. And when that relationship becomes too hostile, too resent filled, or the woman kind of shuts down and divests, they move on. And then they kind of integrate pieces of those learnings into their next relationship with a person who doesn't have the same level of anger, resentment, or awareness of their pattern of toxic behaviors. And then when that woman is exhausted or burnt out or angry or resentful, they move on and do it again. And this pattern of learning fundamentally operates on the idea of not seeing women as reciprocal partners in relationship. And so I think my practice of like decentering men has largely been with this awareness, right? I've never had a relationship with a man that reciprocated the level of intentionality, willingness to change, willingness to be apologetic, empathy. And I've often found myself in these really difficult situations of in the shower kind of thinking up different metaphors to explain like the concept of an apology, the red flag of failing to repair, and then the redder flag of failing to repair that failure to repair. Like all of these concepts are things that I've drawn maps for men to understand. I've made lists of what my needs are when I'm looking for repair, or what my apology language is. All of these things and all of these conversations have really landed in pretty much the same sort of relationship for me, which is men kind of willing to engage with the concept of these things up until the point where it threatens their sense of self. Because when dialogue or the desires of a partner, or the concept of reciprocity threaten a man's sense of self, the conversation is over. And that is when you will find dismissiveness, gaslighting, anger, vitriol, negging, and a total depedestaling of you as a partner and a person. I'm not saying that this is every man in the world. I'm saying this reflects the experience of me and a lot of the women and femmes in my life. And I think this comment really resonates, that women leave relationships with men feeling like the life has drained out of them, and men leave relationships with women kind of more prepared to interact in different and maybe slightly improved ways for the next one. And all of that really relies on the concept that a woman is kind of disposable unless they're in service to the man. And so that innate desire that we all have for a mutual exchange, for a just and fair relationship, for reciprocity, to feel like we are in each other's care, to feel like we are giving what we receive, kind of falls apart when you realize that at best you're kind of a stepping stone or a mirror for the best version of a man, and at worst you're a threat to his ego and therefore something to be discarded.
As we talk about relationships, the terms like narcissism, love bombing, gaslighting, empathy, forgiveness, all of that comes into play. So that is the reason why I am connecting these two Reddit threads to that previous video. So all of this, I know I am connecting a lot of dots, but it all works. It all makes sense to me as I am thinking about how I create my content. It all just matches as I am scrolling through the various social media platforms and listening to women and seeing the different things that women are saying and typing. So go ahead and watch this next video. My Reddit algorithm, my social media algorithm in general, does its thing. So these two back-to-back posts that I saw in Reddit are very interesting. I want to talk about two in this one post. In this dating over 40 subreddit, this person says how to avoid additional suffering by using words correctly. Almost every other post in this sub contains the words narcissist, gaslighting, and or love bombing. It seems as if people really add to their suffering by assigning evil intent to people who actually just suck at relationships. These words have actual specific meaning, which is as follows. Narcissist, a person who has an inflated sense of self, importance, preoccupation with power, beauty, or success, self-assigned entitlement, excessive envy, and an extreme lack of empathy. People with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, which is estimated by the APA to affect 0.5 to 5% of the population, are arrogant, become enraged if they aren't seen as special, and intentionally exploit others for their own gain. Narcissist does not mean shitty ex. Now, keep in mind that most of these people are not going to go get diagnosed. That's the reason why when we talk about these things, you can talk about the tendencies that people have that might mirror these behaviors, but we don't really know if they're a narcissist. And yes, people do just throw out narcissist to mean that somebody that just kind of sucks. Gaslighting is the real definition. A calculated attempt to make other people doubt their own sanity because doing so will personally benefit the gaslighter. An example would be attempting to make a soon to be ex spouse doubt their own parenting skills because then the gaslighter is more likely to get full custody. Another example is convincing an ex they're too mentally ill to manage their own finances because then the gaslighter can take over their bank account. Gaslighting does not mean arguing or disagreeing. That is not. It just means that making you seem crazy and they're doing something to make you crazy. That is what gaslighting is. Like flicking the lights and then telling you that it's in your imagination that you're not seeing these lights flickering. Love bombing, a deliberate show of over the top affection designed to entrap a romantic partner, again for the personal gain of the love bomber. There is a conscious attempt to manipulate the victim, usually due to the love bomber's deep insecurities. The ultimate goal is to isolate the victim and make them feel dependent because then they won't leave the love bomber. Love bombing does not mean being enthusiastic at the beginning of a relationship. And a lot of times these love bombers have a particular thing that they need. They need a home. They need some food. They are sick. They need a nurse and a purse. So keep that in mind that some of these people are literally trying to get their hooks in you quickly. But like this person said, it's not all about just being enthusiastic at the beginning of the relationship. Um, they continue with, if we insist on using these words accurately, we can relieve so much of our own suffering. By leaving the clinical terms to clinicians, we spare ourselves the burden of often inaccurate diagnosis and free ourselves from the belief that people who simply suck at relationships are some sort of evil monsters under the bed waiting to devour us. I don't have an issue with using words if the words are accurately used. And I do recognize that some of these things are clinical terms, but sometimes we use these words to call it out when we see it, because sometimes people simply don't know the red flags that they're seeing. They ignore them, but when we call it, then people can pinpoint it and then know how to avoid these people or getting trapped by these people. So I definitely believe that it is a reason behind why we should be doing this, why we should be saying these things and calling out behaviors when we notice them. I'll do a couple of the comments. So this person said, I'll add that attachment styles aren't static and neither are love languages. Some people have issues with talking about love languages as well. Okay, so then the next person says, love languages are a pet peeve of mine. Hate this need to put people in silos. Love is complex, so are people, different people being loved in different ways. But some of this crap is so silly. Who doesn't like words of affirmation and acts of service? Um, so where do you guys fall with the love languages conversation? Do you believe that that's an actual thing? Do you call it bunk? Do you believe that these have been debunked? Let me know in the comments about that. So what I was talking about with my algorithm, this post was right after that post that was talking about using words correctly. This is in the subreddit Life After Narcissism, and it's entitled Ends Deserve Consequences, Not Empathy. Ends as in narcs. Okay, so this person says, really tired of seeing the take that ends deserve empathy. Sometimes the reasoning is they were abused. Okay, yeah, so were we. Survivors aren't out there abusing people. Being abused doesn't give someone a pass to abuse others. There's no justification to abuse others other than they get off on it. Empathy to ends is just a free pass, or they apologize and keep doing what they're doing, only discreetly. They don't care. Survivors, scapegoats get half a chance, if even. People give ends a million chances and it just doesn't add up. Others might not agree, but I'm at a point where I'm militant about it. I can't give a free pass to anyone who knowingly manipulates, deceives, and abuses others. They deserve consequences, shame, abandonment, divorce, breakup, public humiliation, no contact. At this point, anything less than that gives them the idea that what they do is okay. I don't even want them to move on to somebody else. I don't I don't want anyone else to be hurt by them after me. Wish ends had like a registry, or just send them all to an island together with no way out. That said, I understand why not everyone can go no contact. Been there. So this person wants everybody to feel the consequences of their action and feel it swiftly. And I completely understand. Um, you know, you have to look at it from different perspectives. And the perspective of somebody that has felt the impact of what a narcissist or a person with narcissistic tendencies can do will feel just like this. And I completely understand. So this person's perspective is valid. I believe in making people feel the consequences of their own action. If they had a garden and they didn't water it, they deserve to have the fruits that are bared from that garden. You reap what you sow. F around and find out. All of that. Okay, so this person is commenting on the part that says, I can't give a free pass to anyone who knowingly manipulates, deceives, and abuses others. They said that is exactly why. They do know that they're doing it, when they're doing it, and when to stop and put on I am the good human mask. We just need to remember that they're not all the same, different severity. Some do try to change. We can be empathetic, trying to understand the many reasons as to why they are what they are, but that doesn't mean give them a free pass. That's all subject to the person. Some people just want to eliminate them. You see who they are and run, and that is completely valid to somebody who has dealt with one of these people. And like they said, these words do pop up all the time: gaslight, narcissist, all that. The OP says, yes, if they weren't aware, they wouldn't try so hard to lie and gaslight, is why they live so many lives. I can't just buy the whole they're not aware bit. Also, definitely, one can understand that someone was abused without giving someone a free pass, for sure. And then this person says, yeah, I agree 100%. If someone genuinely doesn't know that they've done something wrong, they wouldn't lie about it. The fact that narcissists often lie or go to great lengths to hide their bad deeds show that on some level they know that their actions are wrong. Y'all, people are getting fed up with the whole forgiveness thing. I think a lot of people are about to start having to live with the consequences of their action. Listen to this one. She says, yep, 100% agreed. I used to believe in forgiveness, empathy, and compassion. Look where that got me in relationships and after. Some people just don't deserve these things. They don't forgive or extend their empathy and compassion in a genuine way. We don't need to be the bigger person and choose to get hurt over and over again. My ex would often tell me not to get mad at him or that I was making him feel bad when I brought up how his actions hurt me. He should feel bad and ashamed. Yes. And then the OP says all they want is that free pass. Everything has to revolve around them. The way they abuse you constantly and say, "Don't make me look bad," is delusional. Absolutely. So this was filled with a lot of common buzzwords of right now, but I do believe that these people's feelings are valid. I would like for y'all to weigh in. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. And finally, I want to attach a passage from Lundy Bancroft's Why Does He Do That? Everything is not always abusive. Everything has scales of gray or variant colors or whatever. But what we see with the dehumanization and socialization of men and women helps to understand why people are able to treat us certain ways. So go ahead now, and with all that we have seen as we talk about these things, see if you can see any of these terms and connect it. Connect it with the things that you have seen, said, or has somebody say about you. And then let me know what you think.
There's a passage that I want to bring to you from Why Does He Do That by Lundy.
So, the part that I want to talk about today is men and intimate relations. And I'm using this passage because there are shades of gray. There are points on a scale where some of these people land. It's not always where you can just say that's abusive, but how some of these people dehumanize women. And you can hear it in the way they talk about us to the point where everything is about women, our looks, our fertility, body counts. It's all dehumanizing. And when you can dehumanize somebody, you can pull all of their humanity and reduce us down to our vajayjay or a womb, then you have essentially taken the rest of the essence of what it is to be a woman, to be a human. So I want to read this passage, and you don't have to put it all on abusive men. You don't have to, because, like I said, there are shades, there's a scale. All right, it's for him. The abuser's orientation towards sex is likely to be self involved. Sex to him is primarily about meeting his needs. He may put some effort into creating pleasure for his partner, but probably not because of her satisfaction or sharing a mutual experience. It is important to him. He is invested in having her reach orgasm so that he can see himself as a great lover, Apicala. He wants to be erotic because he believes that his sexual prowess will enable him to dominate women. Of course, any lover gets some pride out of bringing pleasure to a partner, but to many abusive men, that's the only reason why the woman's satisfaction matters. Everything refers back to him. Now, we have talked about homosexuals, we've talked about the pests that want a nested rest, and this going back, some of these people use this as a way to get what they want, especially if they're good at it. Some people are good at it because it is a means of survival. So keep that in mind. If you see this woman as a resource that you need, it's like you try to get her invested and keep her interested by bringing pleasure. So that is just one way. That's just one way they use women and use intimate relations to be abusive. And like I said, it's along a scale. It's not always just like abuse doesn't look the same for everybody. So keep that in mind as well. An abusive man commonly rolls all of his emotional needs into one tremendous bundle, which he expects sex to be able to carry. He tends to have little real heart-to-heart connections with his partner, since a man cannot be truly close to a woman he's abusing. Although his partner may feel very attached to him through traumatic bonding, and he may feel very attached to having her meet his various needs. Attachment and closeness are two different things. So he compensates for his lack of genuine intimacy by elevating sex to the highest plane, burdening it with the responsibility of providing for him all the emotional satisfaction that he is not receiving elsewhere in his relationship. So, and I know that you guys have seen this. Like, a lot of these people are not capable of having true human connections, because human connections require some vulnerability. It requires some give and take. So a lot of their emotional needs are being met through these intimate relations, and this is where they're getting that hit, that little bit of respite for their day to day. It's not like genuine connection. It is simply an orgasm. And I think that they are, like this person said, like Lundy says, they're rolling all of their emotional needs into this one act because they lack true friendship and human connection in other ways. Further into this chapter, these are some of the things that are in italics that some of the women have said. I'm going to read these. And like I said, these are going to be on a scale. In some variety or some form, you have heard these things or may have felt them yourself. You don't need to tell me in the comments or whatever, but this is not that abnormal. He just makes me feel gross. I feel dirty and slimed on. He makes me feel cheap. The sexual stuff he does is what has really ruined my self-esteem. It's been years since I've had sex that really felt loving or voluntary. With him, it seems more like he's winning a war or something. It's like an invasion. I hate it. That's the part that I wanted to talk about. It's like winning a war or something. It's like an invasion. I hate it. Now, when you hear these men talk about, body count, getting with the virgin, submission, um, getting a girl that is malleable, all of that. It is literally like they are miniature colonizers. They want to go out exploring. They want to plant their flag. They got something that pure as snow, that has pure as the driven snow. And that is how they treat women. They treat women like conquest, like treasures to be found. And this is dehumanizing. This takes away the rest of her humanity. And this is how they end up getting bored with women, and they discard this object. And it's easy to it's easy, they go trying to grab this prize, and then you're like, how did they discard me so easily? It's easy to discard an object when it's no longer fun. Just like you give kids a Christmas gift, they play with it for 15 minutes, they discard it, and then they're on to something else. That's precisely that. When it's an object that you don't value, that you have dehumanized to the point where it's just a little trinket that you can throw away. That's how it happens. So going down to this part right here, dehumanization can be a sickening, horrible experience for the person at whom it is directed. If you are involved with a sexually exploitative partner, you may find that sex is sometimes, or perhaps always, a nightmare. Exploitative, rough, coercive, uncaring sex is similar to physical violence in its effects, and can be worse in many ways. And part of why it feels so degrading is that a woman can sense the fact that in her partner's mind, she has ceased to exist as a human being. Abusive men who have these kinds of attitudes of sexual ownership refuse to use birth control or practice safe sex. I have numerous clients, for example, who have conceived children through sexual assaults on their partners. The implications of these kinds of sexual abuse for a woman and for her children are very serious. We've talked about coercion. We've talked about stealthing. We've talked about many of these things. And so all of this goes back to like I said, it's a scale. Do they see us as human, or are we just there for our basic body parts? I just wanted to pull this out of it because if you hear this, if you're able to name it, if you're able to see it, you'll start to see it in many other conversations that pop up, because many of these people are literally like, you know, we are conquests. And the language of women being a conquest has been there forever. So you guys, let me know what you think about this one.